The heartache this Wednesday night for BC wildfire survivors.
I literally fell to the ground because I was in such shock.
How the community is rallying around those who have lost everything. And Spokane, Washington deals with the worst disaster in its history.
It was devastating.
The progress firefighters are making. Space junk, the newest cosmic collision highlighting a growing problem in our galaxy. And that's the kind of legendary career it's been.
Here I was at the center of things, covering all these important events for Canadians.
The death of Lloyd Robertson, a pillar of Canadian broadcasting.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Wildfires continue to threaten communities across the interior of British Columbia tonight. 4 wildfires of note are still out of control and evacuation orders are in place as the devastation mounts. These images reveal the charred landscape after the Bradley Creek wildfire tore through. Many homes and vehicles were incinerated. Authorities say about 120 structures have been destroyed near Clinton, BC, plus hundreds of homes near Okanagan Lake were burned over the weekend. Angela Jung is in Vernon, BC, where many evacuees are waiting for news.
Donna, parts of the North Okanagan are still under evacuation orders. I'm here at this roadblock preventing evacuees from even trying to return back to their home, meaning they can't see if they even have a home to go back to.
Hi.
You okay?
Yeah, I am.
Ray-Jeanne Simpson has been surrounded by love and support since learning the Bradley Creek wildfire has destroyed her home.
I literally fell to the ground because I was in such shock.
This was a home she and her husband built themselves before it was ravaged by flames.
A lot of memories. And he passed away 2 years ago. It's just all gone.
The inferno leveled entire neighborhoods. The chief of the Okanagan Indian Band says approximately 230 homes have been destroyed. The community is stepping up.
I saw a need and I know we had the space.
People answering the call, filling this Vernon Realty office with donations to help evacuees who have lost everything.
It made my heart explode. It's absolutely beautiful how the community comes together in such a crisis moment.
The BC government is also providing support to over 5,000 evacuees.
Emergency support services are available to anyone who needs help during an evacuation, meeting their basic needs.
But Simpson wonders why officials have been absent in the Okanagan.
What they need is for the government to get off their patoot and get down here and actually see what's going on.
A government spokesperson says the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Kelly Green, may be here in the Okanagan this weekend, depending on conditions. Adding Premier David Eby has not been here because it may take away from emergency services, disrupting those efforts. Donna?
Okay, Angela Jung in Vernon, BC. Thank you. Smoke from those wildfires in the BC interior is blanketing Metro Vancouver for a second day. It's expected to start clearing tonight, but forecasters say the smoke will move east and combine with smoke from those wildfires in Washington state. That could create dangerous air quality and reduced visibility in the Columbia Valley, Kootenay region, and towards the Rockies. Those fires burning in Washington state and Oregon remain a threat. In and around the city of Spokane, Washington, hundreds of homes and businesses have already been lost, and crews are doing all they can to protect remaining properties. Heather Urix-West is there for us tonight. Heather.
Donna, firefighters believe they are making progress against the 3 Spokane area fires, but after several days of cooler temperatures and calmer winds, conditions are now becoming increasingly hot and dry.
It was bad. It was really bad.
We got 1 or maybe 2 snows in the winter.
Brandon and Taylor Clark never imagined a winter with little snow and a bone-dry spring could lead to a summer like this. Their Westgate neighborhood home burned to the ground 10 years to the day they moved in.
When we got in and started seeing the damage, it was devastating. Water spraying 10 to 15 feet in the air.
House is completely gone. The only thing standing are the chimneys.
The Clark says learning the fire that destroyed their neighborhood was caused by a suspected act of arson has been difficult to take, especially when everyone knew conditions were so volatile.
They warned us about how terrible the winds were going to be, how high of a fire chance it was going to be. For somebody to be intentionally lighting the fires, there was only, in my mind, there was only one intent.
It gets worse and worse every year. Fire weather, fire behavior, it's picking up.
Wildland firefighter Leif Sepsi was among the crews fighting the flames when it breached Spokane Saturday.
The only comparison, which everybody's been comparing it to, is the Paradise fires there in California a couple years back.
How it pushed through the city of Spokane, the old Trails fire, very similar. Maybe not on the scale of the Palisades and the Eaton fire, but very similar.
Spokane, a city of more than 200,000, is still being threatened by fires on 3 different sides, with each blaze having already destroyed homes and businesses. The good news is all 3 fires are now considered partially contained, giving residents hope that soon attention could shift to trying to move on.
My little sister from Phoenix set up a GoFundMe for us, and that's been amazing.
The support and the way that the community has come together has been a really incredible grounding spot to figure out what to do next.
Firefighters will soon have new reinforcements with thousands of personnel expected to arrive in the coming days. Donna?
All right, Heather Yurix West in Spokane, Washington. Thanks. A drone carrying an explosive device has been found at an airport in Germany, a country where airports were already on high alert after suspicious drone activity across Europe. A bomb disposal robot was deployed at Leipzig Airport after an employee spotted the drone near Ukrainian cargo jets. The runway was closed, flights briefly suspended. That airport is used by NATO allies for the transport of military goods. Investigators are also examining what collided with a DHL plane that struck something in the air after it was diverted from the airport during the disruption. Counterterrorism police are investigating. And in Russia, the head of a leading drone manufacturer has been critically injured by a car bomb. It appears to be the latest attempt to assassinate Russians linked to the war in Ukraine. Vladimir Kachuk is reported to be in intensive care. His driver was killed when the bomb planted beneath his Mercedes exploded. Kachuk was the head of a factory that makes drones for the Russian military. There are increasing signs Ukraine is no longer able to defend its cities from Russian ballistic missiles. Overnight, Russia fired over 20 missiles at the capital Kyiv and surrounding areas, and not one of those missiles was intercepted. Ukraine's president says 17 people were killed, and he believes lives could have been saved if allies, especially the U.S., had supplied much-needed interceptors. Redmond Shannon explains.
Killed waiting for the last train home. The overnight strikes on Ukraine mostly focused on industrial and retail warehouses in Kyiv. This woman who lives nearby says it's an atrocity and that she lives in constant fear. Much of this damage and death was caused by Russian ballistic missiles, all of which on this occasion Ukraine failed to intercept.
Welcome.
Ukraine's president highlighted his concerns on that with the head of NATO and then Britain's defence secretary.
Increased escalation, yes, using the ballistic missiles.
Volodymyr Zelensky has been banging the drum on his inability to stop ballistic rockets due to Ukraine's depleted stocks of US Patriot defence missiles, saying more of them would save lives.
Looking at what more we can provide as the UK.
A Reuters news report Tuesday said the US itself is running low on missiles due to its war in Iran. Zelensky suggested to his National Security Council that he's concerned missiles may be being deliberately withheld from Ukraine to make Kyiv more open to negotiating with Moscow. Last week, the US president U-turned on a pledge to let Ukraine produce Patriots.
We have not agreed to that.
Even more reason for Ukraine to speed up designing its own version of the complex technology.
We're trying to squeeze in the program that usually takes 20 years or 30 years in a matter of a couple of years.
Kyiv-based missile maker Firepoint hopes that its much cheaper ballistic interceptors will be in action about a year from now. Another long winter awaits. Before then, Redmond Shannon Global News, London.
Canada's Prime Minister has weighed in on the future of FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Mark Carney says he no longer has confidence in the head of the International Football Association. Infantino faced so much pushback to his proposal to sell off commercial rights to the World Cup that he dropped the idea. Now, as Mackenzie Gray reports, the pressure is mounting for him to go too.
It was a months-long bromance before and during the World Cup, but Mark Carney is now out on FIFA President Gianni Infantino.
I don't have confidence in Mr. Infantino after this point, given what transpired.
Infantino under fire for proposing to sell off commercial rights to the World Cup to private investors without even consulting top FIFA officials, something Carney labeled as fatal.
This is not how you run any business, a small business, let alone something that is a global responsibility like football.
The Prime Minister not the first world leader to call out Infantino.
I do not believe that he is the right man to lead football forward.
Infantino in crisis mode to save his job, leaving an emergency meeting, vowing to fight on, saying FIFA won't tolerate any attacks on its integrity, despite multiple countries and soccer heavyweights calling for him to quit, not just over the World Cup proposal.
This is your peace prize.
But also his close relationship with Donald Trump. If Infantino does leave, a frontrunner to replace him, Canadian Victor Montagliani, a FIFA vice president who received glowing praise from the Prime Minister.
He's an exceptional individual. He's credit to Canada, credit to football.
The Canadian Soccer Association won't say if they agree with Carney's assessment on Infantino, Donna, pointing to a board meeting next week to determine next steps.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thank you. An unexpected victory in an American primary coming up, what it could signal for the Democratic Party. Many Democrats in the state of Michigan are celebrating after a progressive candidate won the nomination for the U.S. Senate seat, beating a more centrist candidate in what was a bitter battle. Abdul El-Sayed won a narrow victory, and as Jackson Prosco reports, he did it by focusing his campaign on health care, the economy, and an end to unconditional military aid to Israel.
In battleground Michigan, voters delivered a stinging rebuke of the establishment. Progressive Abdul El-Sayed won the Democratic primary for the state's Senate seat, edging out Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who had the backing of the party's top leaders.
We took on a machine. You're not supposed to be able to beat $70 million of outside spending.
El-Sayed, a former public health official, represents the growing far left of the Democratic Party, touting issues like health care and affordability. But it was one big issue, U.S. support for Israel, that defined this campaign.
And I think that money sent over there to kill kids and women is the worst use of our tax dollars.
Bring this home. Yes. His rival was backed by more than $30 million in spending from a pro-Israel lobby group.
I have chosen, not to run a campaign placing blame on one country for America's problems.
That may have worked against her at a time when support for Israel among Democrats has plummeted to record lows.
The turning point was Gaza. We saw that. Everybody could see that. And they said, why are our leaders not doing something?
Winning a primary is one thing, a general election is another. November's midterms are seen as a referendum on President Donald Trump. Michigan's Republican candidate, Mike Rogers, is a fierce loyalist.
People in Washington are going to be paying attention. If Abdul wins this Senate seat, it will send shockwaves throughout the country.
Not only could Michigan decide whether Democrats retake control of the Senate, the state could prove a critical test of whether a new era of progressive politics can win over American voters. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Coming in hot ahead, the huge piece of a SpaceX rocket that crashed into the moon. Space enthusiasts were using their telescopes to keep a close eye on the moon overnight, trying to see where a stray piece of a SpaceX rocket crashed into the lunar surface. It had been hurtling through space for well over a year. SpaceX and NASA assured the public it never posed any risk to Earth, though as Heidi Petracek explains, it does raise many questions about who is responsible for space junk.
It was this stage
of the rocket that stayed in space.
Astronomer John Reed knew his camera and telescope wouldn't likely capture SpaceX's rocket debris crashing into the lunar surface, but he couldn't help trying.
And in theory, you could have seen a plume coming off the surface, but the plume must have just been too small and blending in with the background.
Scientists used other methods to determine the 4,000-kilogram piece of debris, larger than a school bus, likely slammed into the surface around 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time Wednesday. Estimating its speed, approaching 9,000 kilometers per hour, hollowed out a crater at least 30 meters in diameter and 5 meters deep. The debris came from this SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, launched to the moon a year and a half ago, then left adrift in a so-called graveyard orbit, until scientists tracking it alerted SpaceX it was on a collision course with the moon. A trajectory one expert says can be avoided and has been since.
If in January of last year they had delivered their cargo and then given the rocket a little extra push, it would have escaped Earth's gravity and gone into orbit around the sun.
The moon has long been pelted by meteoroids, and a Chinese rocket stage hit the moon in 2022. But with more countries and private companies launching into orbit in a new space race.
This is sort of a wake-up call that, we really need to start getting more organized about how we operate in deep space.
The best I think we can do is just make sure that we track everything and have good, solid regulations so that things don't hit each other.
Scientists will get a better look at what the lunar crash left behind when a NASA moon orbiter passes by in the coming days and captures a closer look. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
The Toronto Zoo is welcoming a new arrival, a newborn pygmy hippo. The tiny female calf was walking confidently just a few hours after its birth on Sunday. This is the third calf born to Kindia. Both mother and baby are said to be doing well. Pygmy hippos are native to West Africa. They grow to be about 1/10 the size of a common river hippo, and fewer than 2,500 are thought to remain in the wild. Next, reflecting on the life of Lloyd Robertson, the legendary broadcaster who millions trusted on the biggest news stories. He got his start in the golden age of TV news, long before the internet, when network news broadcasts were appointment viewing. And for more than 40 years, Lloyd Robertson was a steady, reassuring presence in living rooms across Canada. Lloyd's family says he died yesterday at the age of 92. Off camera, he was a steady presence too, offering support and guidance to dozens of young journalists. I remember the thrill of hearing him introduce my story when I worked at CTV's Parliamentary Bureau years ago. Eric Sorensen, who also crossed paths with Lloyd over the years, has this tribute.
It's the end of a very long night for us.
That voice, maybe the most famous in Canadian history, authoritative and reassuring.
Some kind of military activity is underway in Baghdad, Iraq at this hour.
Over 41 years, Lloyd Robertson was North America's longest-serving national television news anchor.
The spectators loved it, and the principals, Diana and Charles, played their parts beautifully.
Here I was, at the center of things, covering all these important events for Canadians.
It wasn't something he saw coming. Robertson was in high school when he found a job spinning records at his hometown radio station in Stratford, Ontario. He got to read the news a bit, and his colleagues took note.
One of whom said to me, "You know, Lloydo, you've got the pipes. You should be working at the CBC."
He auditioned, and to his surprise,
I was hired by the CBC. My voice got me through.
Who do you like, Charlotte?
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley. This is Laura Secord's cabin.
Robertson did all kinds of programs, from a Western show to Mr. Fix-It to a show called Vacation Time.
Beware, ye swab.
Then came the chance to do news.
Here's our summary of Apollo 11's Space Odyssey.
And he realized he'd found his calling.
I felt that I was now involved in something that really mattered to people.
But it was a different era. Presenters at the CBC were not considered journalists, even though he rose to read the National.
Good evening. President Nixon's...
He was, by union rules, an announcer, and he didn't like it.
I was in the wrong union. I couldn't write, I couldn't edit.
So Robertson quit and switched networks.
Robertson is leaving the CBC after 22 years.
It was a tectonic jolt to Canada's media landscape.
Good evening. Lloyd Robertson joins us tonight.
Alongside Harvey Kirk, Robertson and CTV took over from CBC as the most watched newscast in the country.
The voters sent the federal Liberals 2 strong messages tonight.
And what Lloyd did is gave us instant credibility. That's Lloyd's legacy. He took this news department and put it on the map.
For millions of Canadians, he became their witness to history.
The magnitude of this crisis is truly breathtaking.
Terrorist attacks, royal visits, federal elections, the near breakup of the country.
There's the percentage, 1 point. But Canada is still in one piece.
Through it all, he had the support of his high school sweetheart and wife, Nancy, and 4 daughters who learned to play down their father's fame to friends.
Why didn't you tell me Lloyd Robertson was your dad? I've been going to bed with him for years.
He was awarded the Order of Canada and won numerous broadcasting honors. He carried the Olympic torch, hosted telecasts for charity, notably for Terry Fox, whose story, he said, touched Canadians more than any other he had ever covered.
Here was a young man who had lost his leg to cancer, but wanted to prove to us that courage was everything in the face of adversity.
Lloyd was completely pivotal in my career.
Lisa LaFlamme, who took over as CTV's chief anchor, said he was a mentor to so many journalists like her.
It wasn't ever about gender. It was about your ability to honestly and accurately report the news and be a good human being while you're doing it.
In a statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney said Lloyd Robertson helped Canadians make sense of the world, a calm and steady presence through the moments that shaped our nation. Robertson helped redefine the job of anchorman. He was a newsman first and foremost, at a time when Canadians gathered at the same hour every night to watch.
And that's the kind of day it's been.
And for many, the news was trusted because they trusted Lloyd Robertson.
When Lloyd Robertson signed off his last broadcast, he said what a rare privilege it was to have done the job for so long. And in his honor, tonight's Your Canada is Lloyd Robertson, who said after all his years of broadcasting, most of all, it was fascinating to watch Canada grow in confidence and stature. That is Global National for this Wednesday. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.